Hi, friends. I'm Heather Miller, CEO and founder of social impact startup Grasshopper, talent acquisition and DEI specialist, mom of 2 humans and 3 fur babies, most under 4, former professional ballet and hip hop dancer, yoga teacher, interior designer, caregiver, provider, retirement planner, innovator, social connector, and the list goes on. As you can tell from my bio, I've always taken drive to the extreme, and for the most part, done pretty well juggling all of my hats. However, I say this on behalf of most of us, the past 3 years have been very challenging. My personal experience included moving to an unknown city, the unexpected death of my mother, and the birth of my first child 2 weeks later, launching a startup during maternity leave, the pandemic, building diversity strategies for a global corporation in the wake of George Floyd's death, another baby, and then, the icing on the cake, a layoff. I felt like I was approaching a midlife crisis with no space to do so. As a result, I've been thinking about balance and whether that's actually a thing. Join me as I speak with some amazing thought leaders and women in my life to understand how they keep the fire going and the lights on while staying sane. We'll explore drive, juggling priorities, taking no prisoners with your schedule, love and sickness, pursuing your dreams, enjoying the journey, and figuring out what is right for you. We hope these conversations help you err on the side of midlife epiphany versus midlife crisis. Welcome to Balanceness. Morning.
Good
Happy coffee drinking.
Yes.
Liz, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So Grasshoppers, I met Liz at a Hey Mama event.
A Hey Mama event.
Couple weeks, months ago now.
Yeah.
You answered the door.
Yes,
when I was walking in, and I was like, "Oh, this is the host," and like her beautiful home, and everything was just so styling and beautiful. But Liz was doing a styling, like a wardrobe overhaul, kind of, or an edit to show us at the event.
Yes. Well, and it wasn't my home. I wish.
I know, wasn't that an amazing
gorgeous.
place?
Her house is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But what I was doing was I was demoing how to edit a closet for the host of the Hey Mama event.
Yeah.
So it was really fun.
Yeah. It was super fun. And we talked about, we learned that we were both New York transplants to Austin. And were you living in Brooklyn, did you say?
I lived in Brooklyn for a year, and then I moved over to the city, and then my husband and I met back then at the time, and we're both originally from Seattle, so so we lived, so I lived in New York for all of 3 years.
All of 3 years? You're from Seattle.
I am originally from Seattle.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So I know you told me a little bit about how you got to Austin, which is where we're recording this right now, but tell me a little bit, tell our audience, how did you get here?
Absolutely. So originally from Seattle, I was working at T-Mobile, and I was just basically kind of that job out of college. And I worked there for a while and climbed the corporate ladder, and I was like, gosh, there's more to what I'm doing. I would really love to work in another city. And one of my accounts that I was on, he convinced me. He was like, you really need to be in New York. And so I said, okay. So I talked to my boss and I said, hey, can you transfer me to the regional office in New York? And he said that I had to interview for another role, which I did. And so I was a national account manager for T-Mobile's online business at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was rated, that company at the time was rated one of the best places to work in Seattle. So it was kind of a dream job out of college. And then, but side note, I was also styling clients and friends and colleagues at the time, because people were like, oh, you have great style. So I also kind of had this itch to style and get into fashion, but my brain was like, no, you really need to utilize your degree. And I went to a liberal arts college, and I got a degree in communication, and I had a debt to pay, college debts to pay, student loans. And so I moved to New York and continued my career at T-Mobile, and really stayed for about a year. And then I wanted something more because I was in a very junior role at the time. And so one of my accounts actually recruited me and said, hey, you need to come to our company. And it was a nice kind of easy transition. So they hired me to be their director, not director, but national account marketing manager there.
Okay.
So then I had to move back to Seattle actually.
Oh, no way.
and then actually it was the wrong role for me. I, prematurely took that role because I just wanted to get out of that role at my previous company, and I wanted to keep progressing my career. So it was all about career, And then I moved back to New York. So I did two of my coastal moves. It was
Did you
crazy.
leave that role to move back to New York?
I did. Well, actually,
for what?
I actually got let go because it was a mutual hey, this isn't working, and I wasn't happy, and I was just. I took that role and I immediately had to basically be the director of marketing for my boss because she went on maternity leave right when I started.
Oh my gosh.
So it was really, I just felt
lot.
like it was a lot. It was a lot for me to handle, and it wasn't anyone's fault. I don't think they realized that I couldn't handle all of that.
Yeah.
And I just got burned out, and then I got let go. So
burnout. Well, definitely let's chat about that afterwards. But okay, so just to like follow the story, then did you go back to New York?
I moved back to New York, and at that time, my husband and I were we were in touch.
Yeah.
And before I had moved to New York, away from New York the first time, he wanted to get in touch with me and say, hey, let's go on a date. And I was like, well, what's the point? Because I'm moving back to Seattle.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm there, for work meetings anyway, because he works in the sports industry.
Was he really?
Yes.
Or he was just, okay.
Yes, he really was. He really was. And so I was like, okay. So he kept reaching out. And so finally, when he was in Seattle, while I was there during the summer, I think the World Cup was going on. We were all at the World Cup game, and so or at a bar, and that's where we reconnected, and then we just kind of started dating from there. Okay. So it was literally in between my job transitions. Yeah. And then when the Seattle job didn't work out, I was like, well, you know what? I never really wanted to leave New York anyway, because I just didn't have much time there.
No, a year. So it was just a year.
It was just a year and a half.
Enough.
Yeah, a year's not enough.
Really not enough.
Yeah, it was just a year and a half. So
it's
I moved back.
you just get to explore West Village in a year and a half.
Yes, you just dip your toes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot when I was there in a year, so it was so fun.
Oh, yeah.
But I went back, and so then we started really dating and to explore a relationship, and we're like, this is it.
Oh my God.
So
holy cow.
Yeah, so I actually moved back to New York without a job, but I actually found one that then I started working for a tech company. So I guess one of the things I like to do is I like to work for disruptor brands. Okay. So T-Mobile at the time was a disruptor brand. Yeah. The other company after T-Mobile was another disruptor brand. Okay. I went to go work for an earplug disruptor brand, and they were trying to tap into the market. Okay. It was a startup, and working in the corporate world, I had a really hard transition going from corporate to startup mode. Oh,
it's so rough.
It's so rough.
I've done it too, going from McKinsey to Grasshopper.
Yes.
It's just you don't have any of the resources, you don't have the people, the white papers, the internal Google,
the SOPs.
You have to do it all from scratch.
You have to start from scratch, and you can't go to a team to ask to help with a certain thing, right? Because if you have the idea, you have to just execute it and get it done. Yeah. And I didn't know that. I didn't have that mindset. So when I went to the startup, I was really only there for 3 months. Okay. And then we had a mutual understanding. And so I was like, at first I was feeling really horrible about those two roles not working in between where I ended up being. Yeah. And then my husband was like, hey, why don't we just let's move somewhere that you want to move. He's like, we don't have to live in New York. It doesn't have to be LA. Where do you want to live? And so we came across Austin because we ended up getting a house out in Austin. And I was like, well, if we have a house in Austin, why don't we just move there?
Wait, so you had a house like as an investment?
Yes, he bought a house.
Thing?
Yes, he bought a house as an investment because he was working there a week a month anyway.
That's so smart.
And so for him, it was like, hey, this is a really great investment. Let's do it. I'm like, great.
And when was this? Like what year?
2014.
So it was like way before the craziness.
Way before the craziness.
The crazy housing market.
We got in early, which is great.
That's amazing.
Yes. So we got really lucky. And I had never lived anywhere outside of obviously New York or Austin or Seattle. And so I was like, let's give it a try. So we did, and we've been here ever since. So then 2 years later, we got married and then had a baby, and then our life just started. So,
oh my gosh.
But when I moved, another part of my history is that I also modeled when I was in Seattle.
Okay.
So I'm a retired model. I don't do that anymore. But I dabbled in a lot when I was in Seattle. I multitasked, and I know the theme here is balancing motherhood and just balancing like life and work. And I balanced a lot not only when I was in college, but when I was in when I was working at T-Mobile, I had basically 2 other jobs. I was a style coach or a stylist, side hustling, and then I also modeled. So I would take my PTO to go take some modeling gigs, and then I would take my PTO to go and help with styling, and then I would sell on the weekends. So at the time, it made sense because I was single, I didn't have kids, and I had the freedom, I had the flexibility. I was all for that. Now today, thinking about what I did back then, there's no way.
You were like,
there's no way.
I was nuts. So let's actually talk about that. And you brought up the fact that like we're talking about motherhood and balance, but you touched on burnout earlier.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's coming from the fact that like, just as you said, you had your main job, your 2 side hustles, which were, I'm sure in the back of your mind, you were like, well, maybe these side hustles could become a career one day. Like these could be my main hustles. I'm sure you had you're dating, you've got your social life, you've got your family life, everything. So I guess the question was like, how did you know that you were at burnout mode? And I guess one of the questions that I have here is like, do you believe in balance? Like, does that exist?
Yeah, so it just got really hard. And typically when I insert myself in a multitude of things, the first thing that takes a hit is my health. And I feel like that's true for most
a lot
women.
of people.
Yeah, for most people, right? We tend to deprioritize ourselves, and we tend to prioritize everything else around us because we have to pay our bills. We have to make money. We have to, keep a roof over our head. We have to, stay mentally okay, right? And so, and then we have to maintain our relationships. Otherwise, you kind of you feel like you're committing social suicide if you don't, right? And so, I hit burnout, and I realized that when my health was taking a hit, it wasn't sustainable anymore.
What were some of the signs of your health taking a hit? Because I know when this happens to me, often I don't notice, like there's sort of subtle signs, and then I put it together and I'm like, oh, that is something that shows like I'm not in optimal health, wellness. But like for you, what was it?
Absolutely. Well, I know my body pretty well. So when certain things kind of start to fall apart, maybe it's my skin, or maybe it's just like my internal, bowel movements or organs or whatever the case is, like gut health, your feminine health, right? Like all that gets out of balance, and then like I just like feel like mentally drained and exhausted. And typically people get sick, right? You typically get sick when you hit burnout and when you're super stressed out. And so very careful about making sure that like, if not letting that get too far, but once I get sick, absolutely, that's when I'm like, okay, that's the sign. The straw, like, definitely. We're at that max.
Yeah. So like for you, it seems like early on your priorities were career.
Yes.
But I'd love to talk about priorities and values.
Yeah.
Like what were they then, and has it changed now that you're a mom?
Oh, absolutely. All of that has changed.
Okay,
yes.
tell me.
I mean, back then my values were basically my relationships, keeping and maintaining my relationships. So I was always out. I was a busybody. I didn't have a lot of boundaries. I always kind of just went wherever the wind took me, as far as like, you know, if someone invited me out to a happy hour or dinner, it was my opportunity to go and network socially and get to know more people. And so I created a really great network of friends when I was living in Seattle. Family was also important to me. So I always spent, you know, time with my mom and my dad, and we would have like our Korean dinners, my brothers. And so, but at that time when I was single, it was just basically, you know, taking care of myself. How can I be independent so that I can I don't have to rely on anyone else financially or, you know, in other aspects, right? Yeah. And also for me, personal growth was important. Yeah. So I was more spiritual back then. And, you know, I would say more religious back then. I'm more spiritual now. Okay. But I went to church every week. And,
if you don't mind me asking, what church?
I won't say the church, but I was part of a local non-denominational church in Seattle. Okay. Yeah. So, and it was, I'm still friends with a lot of the people I go to church with. Just when I moved away from Seattle, I wasn't able to find my community again. Yeah. And so I kind of stepped away a little bit from that and just got more spiritual. Yeah. And so I you know, still believe in God and I pray and all that stuff, but I also have a spiritual side of me too, where I'm like, okay, I have my crystals and, you know, I love Reiki and like, there's other things that I like to explore, and I haven't shied away from it, right? Before I did, because you're kind of ingrained to like not go that direction.
As in like religion?
Yes,
sort
religion.
Of like, this is your priority, like here's sort of the framework and the boundaries for it. So.
Absolutely. So, but then when I stepped away, you know, from, you know, like kind of that weekly community, which I actually miss, I just started kind of exploring more of kind of like the spiritual aspect of it, like astrology and, you know, just getting more in tune with like energy work and all that stuff. So
I wish I feel like there's like something missing in my brain where it's like I'm so interested in astrology. I just cannot catch on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's like a memory hole. Like it just goes into a black hole. Like
I can't remember all of that either. I can't remember all that either.
But so interested.
There's actually a podcast on You Can Do Hard Things.
Okay.
With Glennon Doyle.
Oh.
And she has a really good one where she brings an astrologist, and they're kind of like, I don't know anything about astrology, and they really did. And this astrologist broke it down for them, and they're like, wow, this is so cool. It's fascinating, you know.
Really fascinating.
So it's just fun to learn.
It's also really nice to have like principles by which you live and just guidelines.
Yes.
And that's so great.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you think about balance, what does that look like for you?
So it's funny because when we kind of did our pre-talk on this, I was just really thinking about what balance meant to me, because I do think about balance all the time. And I actually wrote up my little like answer in my, you know, in my word pad. But with balance is really hard, to be honest with you. And what I've learned over my corporate years, and also like, you know, I transitioned into the fashion industry after I left New York and came to Austin, and I worked with a custom menswear brand and, you know, kind of grew a team out here. And honestly, like I thought about this last night, like, what is that? It's been more like work-life integration. Yeah. Right? And I don't know if people talk about it a lot, but we are doing work-life integration every day.
Oh, totally.
Right? And
it's interesting, sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting that you say that, because that's sort of like one thing that I want to explore with this podcast is the concept of work-life integration, because I listened to this great podcast, and now I can't remember if it was like Skim from the Couch or whatever it was, but it was a woman who had a role at Facebook, and now she's somewhere else, very in the C-suite. And she said, listen, like, I don't believe in work-life balance. It is, for me, work-life integration, where 1,000%. Like I try to involve my kids. Like if I need to have a work dinner, I'll do it at my house. Absolutely. And she's like, and the benefit is my kids are exposed to all these amazing people and industries that they might not otherwise be. So keeping it separate is not.
It's not an option.
Is not an option. So
keep
so going. Didn't mean to interrupt. But
I would have to say, like, maybe pre-COVID, there's maybe a little bit more work-life balance or just kind of the concept of it. But then when I remember working, and when I got pregnant with my first child, with my son in 2018, I really had to integrate my life into my work and my work into my life, because I would have, when you're becoming a mom, you go to all these doctor's appointments, right? And then I have to take a call, and I'm on a call in the car, and it's so important to try, because you can't say no to those meetings. There's certain things you can't say no to, but you can't not go take your car to the shop and get it fixed or something like that, right? Like those appointments are happening in the middle of the day, and like a lot of businesses close after 5. Yeah. Right. And so, so like that work-life integration is so important for me now. And like now post-COVID, a lot more people are working from home. Yeah. Right. So people are doing their laundry at the same time that they're doing a call, so it just depends on kind of the capacity that you have. I know that when I'm working from home, I can't really do like my laundry and house chores because I will definitely get sidetracked into cleaning the whole house.
So that is not my problem. My husband will tell you it's like this constant battle where he's like, he does not work from home, and he's never had like the home, like that flexibility. I work from home, and he's like, I don't understand. Like, how come you can't just do the dishes or the laundry? And I'm just like, because I'm on back-to-back Zooms. Like, I'm working. Like, it's almost an excuse. Like, I'm always like, maybe I should just get an office out of the home just to
create
not
separation.
Have this battle. But yeah.
Excuse me.
So tell us about Liz Wendler Styling.
Yes, Liz Wendler Styling.
This is like how we met. Yes. And I'm so curious about this business.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm trying to think of like how far back I should go, but so when I talked about my modeling days back in Seattle, I did that all throughout I probably did that for since I was about 22. So I've been in the fashion industry for 20 years. Yeah. Right. And so in my mind, I never was like, oh, modeling is my career. It was always styling. Somehow styling, I want to incorporate that into my career or into my life. And when I moved to New York, I got more excited about it, but I was really scared to kind of break into it because New York is so big, and everyone's a stylist or in the creative, there's so much competition there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't really explore it, but then when I moved to Austin, my husband and I moved from New York to Austin. Yeah. I found this company where I was like, hey, they were looking for stylists.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wait a minute, there's no way that someone's going to hire me to do something that I've been wanting to do, like style, and they've already created a business model for it. And so I interviewed with the founder, and they're actually based in New York, but they're opening up a showroom in Austin. And I was like, no way. And so I think they wanted to hire me on the spot, but like I think we kind of had to, we had to do the song and dance.
Yeah.
And so he was like, super impressive, want to hire you. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. Like I can't believe it.
Exciting.
So when I moved to Austin, I accepted that job, and that was what my career was. I kicked off that career as a stylist in Austin for a custom menswear brand.
Okay, that's what I was going to
working for basically using everything I learned in the corporate world of organization, creating emails and writing to clients and basically capturing brand new clients and just kind of grassroots marketing. I did grassroots marketing when I was at T-Mobile in New York.
Yeah, for sure.
And so the grassroots marketing worked for me, and I would go to events and I would meet people and I would tell them about what we did, and I would, so I slowly got, comfortable and acclimated to Austin and, built a really great client base for myself.
So I did styling, by the way, in my early career. And that's kind of like what led me to interior design. I did a lot of just like fashion magazine styling, like the conceptual, like crazy kind of. I would find it so hard to transition into menswear. Right. I know nothing about that. How did you do that? That's such a big transition.
It was hard, actually. I did a lot of research.
You did?
I did a lot of research. I mean, I didn't even know how to tie a tie. Yeah. Menswear tie. And I learned how to tie a tie. I learned how to tie a bow tie. I learned all the different terms, because you basically learn that, right? So I learned all the terminology. They had some training. Okay. But there was more things that I had to learn. I had to learn all the menswear watch brands. I had to learn the things that men were into, because I had to talk to men about what they were into. Yes. I had to understand the different types of whiskey and all that stuff. I had to talk to my husband.
Like so fun.
Yeah,
like
it was
just
so
being
fun.
like, my job is to learn about a different demographic.
Totally.
But like in fashion.
In fashion.
That's so
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest with you, like I really enjoyed working with like men on their wardrobe because they make quick decisions.
Yes.
It was so fun working with them. Like,
that's
oh,
true.
you actually want this? Because I told you that you need it. And there was no second guessing, like, let's go ahead and do this. Like, great. So I had so much fun. It was so empowering. And then so then I basically worked up my, they promoted me to basically be the showroom manager.
Okay.
Then I was a regional manager for all the stores in Texas.
Okay.
And then I was a director kind of towards the end of my career break before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I was basically going to inherit all of the East Coast and Southern state stores.
Oh, wow.
And then COVID hit and I went on maternity leave.
Okay.
And I basically was on maternity leave during Q4, which for any retail business is like the biggest quarter in the entire year.
Yeah.
And so when I came back, they kept me on for about a month and then they had to lay me off, which it made sense because they had to cut out middle management, right? So it wasn't a personal thing at all. Like
it was
adore
COVID,
them. Yeah, it was COVID. It was like exactly. So the timing was just unfortunate and my role was just expensive, right?
Yeah.
And so I understood that business decision. So I took a year off with my daughter and stayed at home and really did some soul searching. And my husband's like, well, figure it out, see what you want to do. No pressure. You don't have to find anything right away. But for me, I'm so used to working. It's ingrained in me. I've been working since I was like 14, maybe even 10 babysitting, but like, multiple jobs and side projects and side hustles. And it was the first time where I had to just be still.
Were you able to do it? Because like one of my questions for you was, did you have a maternity leave? So you're sort of answering this.
I did,
but
yes.
At the same time, you did not know what you were going back to.
No.
And as dreamy as soul searching seems, it's also really stressful because I'm sort of in that period right now. It's like, well, what am I going to do? What kind of career can I build? Like, what is my next step? I don't want to get lost along the way. Like, were you able to like prioritize the baby? Tell me.
Yeah, so I did prioritize my daughter, but we did put her into daycare with my son. So I had time during the day to give myself that time and intention. So I basically distracted myself with all the things other than just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I decided, you know what, I think I want to style. I think I want to start my own styling business. And that's when I realized I need to do this. As I was doing that, another company was recruiting me and I just kept saying, no, I don't want to go back into this industry. Once I left that industry from the layoff, I'm done with this part, right?
Yes.
And so, but the offer they gave me was just so compelling. And so I was like, well, why not? Why wouldn't I just go back to work and take a, salary and go back to work and just like, and then start my Liz Wendler styling on the side. So I worked with an amazing local brand in Austin, and Glass Staircase are amazing if you need someone to help start your like website, and they do branding for women. Women founders and business owners Jess is incredible and her team is incredible. And basically I started my website and I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to offer, but I started this other job at the end of like basically the following year. So I did take the whole year off. Good. That's 2022. 2021. 2022, January was when I started the new job. I started my website in December of 2021. And I realized it was just a lot. Yeah. Right. But I kept telling myself, I can do it all. I can bounce it all. I could be a mom of two. I could, I can start my own business. I can work in this corporate business as a director, because the worlds for me in my head aligned. Like I could, sell, and I could work with clients in this industry. I could bring them onto Liz Wendler Styling and then help them with their closets. I could do all the things. I could balance it. I could do it all.
This is so me, and this is literally like why I am doing this podcast. It's because we believe, and we can. Yeah. We can take on everything
Everything.
until you say, there is a burnout, something breaks down, or until you like really need to explore your priorities.
Absolutely.
But keep going.
So prior to Liz Wendler Styling actually, launching like fully and going where I am today, I stayed in that role as a director for this other brand for 9 months.
Okay.
By September of 2022, last year, I was in burnout. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I was seeing clients on the side and managing a team and building the rewards and recognition program, basically helping them build and grow their sales and revenue from the ground up. Yeah. And I was empowered. I enjoyed it, but I realized I didn't enjoy managing people anymore.
Okay.
That's what I realized. And
because
then
you had two babies,
I had two
to
babies
manage
at home,
and it's like, you're like, wow, those are taking up all my people management resources.
1,000%. I was like, no. So it came to a head in October when my husband and I, we have a shared calendar, and everything, I can see what he has going on at work and our schedules, and I'm just like playing schedule calendar Tetris. I'm like, okay, how can we make this work? We both had to be in New York at the same time in October for work. Yeah. What are we doing with our kids?
No. Yeah, I know.
Right? So if he had to be in work for 2 days, I had to be in work for 3-4 days. Like, how do we manage our kids? Yeah. And so his one condition of me taking that job was I would have to manage our schedules and the kids. Okay. Which was fair, because I was like, he was like, my role is like getting crazy and I really need that support from you. And I'm like, got it, done. Because I'm like, I could do it. Yeah. And it came to a head in October, and I realized that we were both needed to be in New York at the same time. Yeah. We were like not in a good place, and I was like, wow, this was my fault. Like, I was like, I felt really bad. Like, okay, I didn't manage the schedule the way I should have, and it was just more of like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Because then I was traveling a lot too. Yeah. I was required to travel to all the other stores, and so when that hit, I called the founders and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I have to put in my 2 weeks and I can't do this anymore. Oh. And by the way, I'm not going to New York.
You made that decision.
I did. I had to. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I would have been empowered to do that if I hadn't gotten laid off. Yeah. Right. And if I didn't have that time to really think about what I wanted. Yeah. And I knew taking that job was not the right thing, not the right fit for me in the current place in my life. But I took it selfishly because I was like, I could do it, you know, and I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. Yeah. But who am I proving it to?
I know.
Right? What was the point other than just like causing more chaos and stress in our family?
Well, because there's like, you have this perception that like the other people perceive you in a certain way, and you want to maintain that reputation that you built for yourself. Yeah, that's it. And so it's really hard to, I mean, you feel like you're letting yourself down, you're letting other people down. What will they think of me? Yeah. What will I think of myself if I'm sort of managing my life in a different way? Yeah. But so this takes us to the question of, what are your responsibilities? We talked about your responsibility. Yeah. Well, we didn't really get into your offerings.
Yes, we have so much to talk about.
But let's start with, okay, so what are your responsibilities at home? You just said like managing the calendar. So let's talk about family, then we'll talk about work responsibilities.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let me finish on Liz Wendler Styling. So once I quit that, once I resigned, it opened up my time to just focus 100% on one thing, on one job, on my career, on growing my business. And if it wasn't for my husband, he was like such a huge supporter. He was like, I know you can do this. He was like, you're so good at this. He was like, you can get clients and you can, you make clients happy. He was like, you're so good at this. So like, just focus on this.
I love that.
And so that support from him was like,
who supports you in that way.
Yeah. And to believe, so then he was like my biggest cheerleader. And so when I got my first couple clients, I was like, this is great. And, so I had to get a style coach to really help me understand how to like kickstart my business, because I didn't know how to start a business.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. But one of the things that I was like so impressed with you at the Hey Mama event, you had this QR code, and I hit the QR code to chat with you later, and all of a sudden it was like, I don't know what service it was, but all of a sudden it was like it downloaded all your information and your website on my phone and your contact. And I was like, this is so organized. Like I knew clearly like you had come from corporate, like, or something like you had those organizational skills, but that was so funny. I've never told you that, but I was just like, this girl's got it down. But okay, so you got a business coach.
Yes, so I got a business coach, and so she was really the one that helped me hone in on my offers.
Okay.
So when you ask about my offers, she really helps me break down like what my style offerings should be, how to price it, right? How to break it down by.
That is so hard. The pricing.
So hard. The pricing was so hard.
Like...
Yeah. I didn't know. I just made it pricing at first, and then I was like, I don't know. And then when she guided me through that, right? She has a course, and she also has coaching, and we also have a cohort of a class in her style expert circle, and which is so great because then we can lean on each other and bounce ideas off of each other. So once she helps me nail down my pricing, I was like, okay, it was game changing. Yeah. And I have my friend to thank who's also in the interior design business, because since we've been friends since 2018, living here, our kids are in the same school together, and she would always talk to me about her business, and she shared that she worked with a coach in the interior design space. I was like, wow, why do you need that? And she shared, she's like, because like she's been there, done that. She's basically walking our cohort through how to, grow our business 10x, right? And since watching her, I'm like, she's a beast. Like she's so good, and she has grown her business, and she's so successful. And without her coach, like I think for her, she probably wouldn't be where she is today. Yeah. And so I also credit my coach, because I think we all need that support. And I had to humble myself. Like, okay, fine, I've been in the corporate industry, I managed a team, I did all these things, but like I don't know how to start a business. I didn't know I had to go and apply for an LLC and get a business account, and then go get tax stuff, and like track all of my expenses. And sure, I did it with modeling because technically I was a contract model, right? So I would track all my expenses. But this is different from like, I had to figure out like growth. I'm learning how to do social media and content editing. I have to, so I'm a one-woman show trying to figure all of that. Like,
much.
Yeah. So this year has been more about like, building my process. Yeah. Right. And I have brought on some clients. So I have a handful of clients that I work with, I enjoy working with, but I'm not taking any more than what I can handle. Yeah, so I've learned that I can only handle about 4 clients a month. Okay. In their full cycle. And I'm not looking to just like grow out of the gate so fast, because I want to give them a good experience from the back end and the front end and then the close. And a lot of that's still getting worked out, right? Because again, I don't know how to edit my website, right? Yeah. So like now that my friend who's edited my website, I'm like trying to I'm YouTube videos. I'm literally like self-teaching myself and like educating myself on how to.
I just started my own I was like, I need to self-brand.
Yes.
So I'm like designing a Wix website. And I'm just like, wow. I mean, no code, but it's
we
great.
should share tips after this. Let's talk.
We absolutely should.
I feel you. I'm proud of you though for building Grasshopper. It's such an amazing community and such a great connector of like women in their careers.
Yeah, it's a huge passion, but that doesn't take away from the fact that like entrepreneurship is really hard, especially if you come from something else.
Exactly.
Right?
It's so true.
But okay, so the responsibilities at home. Yes. So we just talked about responsibilities in the business, but at home.
At home, so at home, my husband, we have a really great partnership. Like we, he is so hands-on at home, and he takes on a lot, I take on a lot, and we just really balance it. And when he knows that I'm falling apart, then he'll pick it up, or vice versa. When he's sick, then I pick it up. So there's a lot of balance. But for the most part, I take on most of the kid stuff. Like he has to get out the door to work. He has to actually go back to the office. He actually has to go to the office. Okay. So I'm the one that's kind of taking all the kid stuff, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I like a process. I like routine. I like, otherwise, because I do have like an ADD brain, but like if I don't have that process or that routine, then I'm not going to have a great day.
Yeah.
And when I don't have a great day, my kids don't have a great day, and my husband's not going to have a great day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just chaos.
Yeah, it's just chaos. And so it gets kind of this trickle effect. So I've just had to learn that I have to, kind of not control, but manage all the responsibilities at home, because I like to have a clean house.
Yeah.
Like I like to have my bed made every morning. That's just how I grew up.
Oh, good for you.
And yeah,
I did not.
Yeah. So I'm teaching my kids like, okay, when you get out of bed, let's make your bed. And then, my daughter's into it, my son's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then and because you have 2 kids as well, I don't know how it is at your house, but at my house, my kids, if I don't tell them to get dressed to go get ready for school, we're not going to get to school on time, and it's on their schedule, and then it's chaos, and so then
your day's pushed back.
Totally. Then I'm also like learning, going on parenting podcasts or parenting tutorials or following parenting coaches and reading books on how to parent my child and how to be gentle parenting, because I don't want to yell at them.
I know. We have to talk about that offline also.
Yes, we can. So, and then my kids' sleep schedule, it's like, so I'm just trying to get my kids into a good process and routine. And again, not controlling them, but just to make sure that we're efficient as a family.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect. Every day is so different.
Yeah.
And, I'm still learning a lot. And our kids' personalities change all the time.
Oh my God.
Right? And you're like, wait, you don't want this now? Wait, now you want,
5 minutes ago, you were really into trucks. And
Totally.
now, yeah.
So at home, I'm basically managing our social calendar.
Okay.
Birthdays, like tons of birthday parties between 2 kids going to school.
Oh, yeah.
My son's going to start kindergarten, so I'm managing so I have to get the school supplies, the school clothes, down to do we have enough toilet paper, paper towels in the pantry, and soap in the soap dispensers? Because believe me, when that stuff runs out unexpectedly in your home, you're just like, and so I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm trying to stay ahead of it. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect at it. I'm just trying to make sure that we are functioning, and just not having so much chaos. I'm trying to eliminate the chaos. Basically.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about how having kids changed the structure of your day. We just kind of talked about that, but I'm still in this place where I'm okay, I still have to work 9 to 5, but then I'll get a call from school that somebody's running a fever, or there's a doctor's appointment, and there isn't a single week where I'm okay, I got my 9 to 5 in for 5 consecutive days. Then I start feeling guilty, I'm not maximizing my work hours.
I'm with you.
How am I gonna how am I gonna grow this business? I don't know. How are you managing that? It feels like an insufficiency for me.
To be honest, every day is so different. So I live by my calendar, and I've learned how to live by my calendar literally in the past year. And I have a friend who's also a life coach, and 2019, I worked with her on managing my calendar. She's the one that taught me how to color code my calendar. Yeah. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I didn't actually learn that in corporate. I just was things are on my calendar.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
we just, last night, literally bought a whiteboard calendar with all different markers. And we're red is for very important things. Green is for vacation. Green,
Yes. Yeah. I wish I could do that. We're just so on the go that we have to be digital. Yeah. So I just merge all my calendars for my business, personal, and my husband's calendar onto one calendar, and then that's color coordinated. And then if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't get done, or I will forget about it. The other day, we were supposed to host a toddler happy hour at my house, and my co-parent of the school classroom, she was like, I thought you were gonna send the email. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was if it's not in my calendar, email, or text, because it was just in passing in a conversation. Yes. And, when you walk away from a conversation, you just forget about the conversation, It's
literally happened to me yesterday. I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch, and I didn't put it into my calendar. And she's sitting there at lunch, and I was it was the worst feeling ever, letting someone down. But Yeah, so I think that the balance of that is, it's hard, but
you know, I've really had to learn when I can fit certain things in, and I also have to listen to my body and then my family and kind of what's going on around me, right?
Yeah.
So every morning I have on my calendar, wake up at 6:30 a.m.
Okay.
I used to wake up at 5:30 a.m. to go for a workout because I have to work out. If I can't get it in my day, then it is chaos in my head.
Yeah.
I just have to find that time to release.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to work out in so long because my business has been taking over my brain.
Same.
Right? And
Same.
so I'm sleeping thinking about Pinteresting. Like, I dreamt about Pinteresting the other night, and I'm like, oh my God, I have got to add like my health balance into the mix,
Get
right?
it together, girl.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. So, but who's watching the kids in the morning while they're sleeping?
They're still sleeping.
Well, oh
Yeah.
my God. So you're sort of good sleepers, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and I have equipment at my house to be able to get my workout done.
Yeah.
So it's cute because sometimes when I'm working out in the morning, my son will come downstairs and he's like, are you working out, mommy? And then he'll go put on his workout clothes and he'll try to do like push-ups and like bar stuff with me. I'm like, you're
cute.
It's cute. They're like super into working out. So I want to offer that to my household because I want my kids to see us like prioritizing our health.
Absolutely.
Like,
and they should do it. They need to grow up prioritizing their health as well. So, I love that.
But it's not perfect every day because right now, honestly, we just got back from vacation and we're here for 2 weeks and then we go away again next Thursday.
Okay.
So these past 2 weeks, I've been more graceful on my workout routine and my time here because right now I'm trying to focus on taking care of my clients before I go away again for another week. And then with the balance, I'm trying to just turn off during that week because we're visiting a lot of our core friends on the East Coast as well as my husband's sister.
Okay.
And so that's family time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I learned my lesson because when we went away during 4th of July holiday with family time, I was like on social media. I was stressed. Yeah, I was working and my husband's like, what are you doing? And I was like super stressed out because like something not great happened and I was trying to manage it and take care of it. And then I was like, my energy, like, you know, was out there in the universe in the family. And he was just like, we all felt it.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
absolutely.
You're so right.
I've done that before. My sister lives in Canada, and last year we always do like a summer visit with the kids, and I was working, and it was just like, it was just so stressful. I knew that she was taking care of them, but that meant she and her partner were taking care of 4 kids. I'm like, you know, in the house, like hiding in a room trying to work, and I couldn't give, you know, them the attention and my family the attention.
Totally.
It's really important to be able to kind of like switch off. Sometimes you just cannot do it.
Sometimes you just can't do it.
Yeah.
But that's where like I when you asked earlier, like, do you believe in balance? That's where the balance has to come into place, right? And I think it's just about, for me, like, and I don't know if this works for other people, but prioritizing the balance, because it's always going to be, so I have to learn how to shut it off, right? Because going on a family vacation, I can't integrate that into the family vacation. That's not fair, you know? For that, like, precious family time that's just going to go away. And our kids are getting older, and, you know, it's like my babies are 5 and 2.5, and I'm like, when did this happen?
I know,
and then
it's so crazy.
Yeah, and then when we go away to see our family, you know, our nieces and nephews, our older nieces and nephews are like teenagers going off to college, and I'm like, but when I first met you in the family, you were like 5.
Yeah.
How is this possible? Or 10?
Flies.
Or,
Someone was saying the other day, like, the days are really long, but then the years are really short.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. So
true.
Okay, so priorities for you. You've got to get your workout in. Things need to be, you're reducing chaos. You're prioritizing family time. You've also got your career. Like, how does it feel right now that you've acknowledged that you need to have a balance? Do you feel like you're getting there?
Yes and no. So I think the benefit of being older and having kids and going through all this stuff is that I don't sweat the small stuff. Right. And so,
like what would a small thing be for you?
Like, let me think. Like I had an appointment the other day, right? And I was late it was a doctor's appointment. And my kids like lollygagging, right? And I had to get them out the door, and I was stressing out at first, but I was like, I can't change the fact that I'm late.
What am I going to do?
Called the doctor and said, hey, I'm so sorry, but this is what time I'm going to get there. So now what I've learned to do is communicate more and set the expectation with the person and say, hey, I'm not going to be here on time, or like, there's just, and not having to explain the why. It's just like, hey, I'm running 15 minutes late. Just want to let you know, like, I hope you can still take my appointment. If not, we can reschedule.
It's why, like, I find myself now stopping myself in emails being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened. And this is why, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you know what?
Yeah.
We don't need to know all the details. No one wants that. I'm just explaining. And then we all have choices to make.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's just life, right? It's like, one of my favorite quotes is, life is like, is it 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react, right? So it's so true. Like, how am I going to react to the situation? And if I'm going to react to the situation with stress and animosity and like anger and this and that, I'm bleeding that into the rest of my day, right? So I'm trying so hard not to do that. So if I'm not fully balanced, or if I'm not fully in tune with like work-life integration, or something goes wrong, yes, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, but then I'm like, okay, then I turn, I'm like, it's okay, like, it's gonna get better, and then I just have to like figure out like how to make it better or change it the next time, or maybe not. It could repeat, but every day I'm growing in that, and every day is a new thing, and I'm always asking friends and
me too.
Just friends, right? Like, how do you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
I don't know. It was funny when you said in our email, when I was like, okay, so we're going to talk about motherhood and balance. And you're like, I definitely don't have this down yet. And I was like, I don't have this down yet either. But we just got to a point where we have someone helping us with the kids now. We just brought on an au pair.
Good.
It was something I had never thought about before. We have my husband's from France. His family's there. My mother passed away. My father is in San Antonio, and let's just say he like grandfathers with like a vodka martini and Bumbles. So like we're just like, we don't have help, and we were struggling and neither of us came from a place where we sort of believed in it. Like we were like, we can do this. Yes. And it just started getting really, really hard. I was running 2 businesses. I was, the kids were so young. His schedule, my husband's schedule, he works very early in the morning, and then we had the house renovations and just everything that was going on. And finally, I was actually on a trip to New York, and one of my girlfriends was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not getting help? And I was like, I don't know. I never really thought about it. And so I did some research, and we ended up deciding on an au pair as opposed to a nanny. It's been fantastic. She's from France, which is where my husband's from. So the kids are getting a little bit of,
that's great.
Some French, and so hopefully they can communicate with their cousins and their grandmothers. But like, that has helped with the balance, because it's also brought in my ability to exercise in the morning, which was missing for 3 years.
Right. Well, like, how do you feel now that
I'm starting to feel so much better.
Good.
I'm starting to feel so much better, and losing the baby weight that I had been carrying around for 3 years because I had no time to work on it. And being a dancer or like former dancer is so hard for me to carry around that weight, because it just wasn't my identity. And I just did not feel good. Like, I didn't feel energized. So now I'm getting, and I'm like exploring different types of workouts again. And that's like being a dancer, like that is what energizes me.
Absolutely.
It's just like movement. Then my brain starts working properly. I'm more creative. So anyways, I'm sort of getting there.
Good.
But
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Good job. That's great.
We're working it out, and it's starting to feel better. And it's, now we have some help with bedtime too. I don't know if that's like, that is a huge challenge in our house because one of our kids is totally fine. The other one is just like a stubborn ox and we can't get him to do anything.
Right.
So it's
Same.
just
I have one of
always this commotion and emotional sort of drama
Yeah.
that I don't need in my life.
Yeah, no, I know. We have one child that likes to stay up late. She likes to keep it going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's been, I mean, gosh, I'm so glad you said that because my husband had actually talked about getting au pair.
Yeah.
Because we added an extension to our home and he's like, well, this is what we got this for. And I was like, okay. But I guess for me, I'm like, I'm not quite ready yet. Like, we're fine. We're great. But just this past week, I'm like, either I need to hire a personal assistant or I need to hire an au pair.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any easier because right now my son's in camp, right? We're in the summertime and I have to do pickup. They both get off at 5 and they're on the complete opposite sides of town.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, how am I going to do that? And so, like, yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
Let's talk about this because I'm so curious how you found her.
It was a lot of research,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you like why this works for our family as opposed to other alternatives. But so just to close here, like what do you feel? Is there one thing with balance that you're still really struggling with? Like, is there one thing missing that you wish you could like inject into the equation?
Oh gosh, I don't know if it's really time, to be honest with you. There's never enough time in the day, right?
Yeah.
When I think about it, like I talked about this with my good friend and she's like, why are you so stressed out? And explained to her my time, right?
Yeah.
Like between the hours of, in the morning, it's kids. Then between 9 to 4, it's like I have to get work done in that time frame, right? And then from 4 on, between 4 and 9 p.m., like it's family, it's kids, it's like, so that's where like the integration comes in. So now time is a commodity, right? So I can't inject more time into my day. What I'm going to have to do is figure out how, like the best way to utilize my time, whether it's during the day or and this is why I haven't been able to work out in the morning because again, I've kind of deprioritized my health and I've been staying up until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, working on my business.
I do that a lot
right?
too. Kids go in bed, you're
totally
so exhausted you could fall asleep right beside them and then you like peel yourself off the carpet and go back in. I'm like laying in bed, like typing away.
Totally, yeah. So I think like for me, it's not that I'm missing anything from the balance. I think it's just, knowing what to say no to. Boundaries. Yeah, boundaries. Knowing what to say no to. And, I've had to say no to a lot of friends this week because they're like, hey, let's go hang out. Let's go here. Let's grab dinner. Let's do this. I'm like, I can't. Yeah. And I have to be okay with that. And it's so hard because I'm such a social person and I want to connect with people.
You want to, but you're like, I know I will feel chaotic.
But I'm going to burn out, right? And so, I think for me, it's setting better boundaries and continue to set those boundaries, and I've gotten better at it, right?
That's good.
I've had some friendships that have kind of dissolved, and one friendship that just kind of is like, hey, we're like, this is, I'm like, okay, wow, good, and that's life, and that's okay, because we're, when you realize that, I'm a true believer that everyone serves a purpose in your life. Everyone that I've ever, connected and interact with, they were in my life for a certain purpose in that certain time. And I'm just in a different time in my life, in a different place. And right now for me, my value and my priorities are my family and like generational wealth. Like how can I get my children into that mindset of generational wealth? So, and what can I do? What can my husband and I do now to create that for our kids?
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I mean, I'm all about this too, and I just read this. Actually, I'll forward you. I screenshot somebody's Instagram because she helps with that. But it was something like you put $50 in their account every month if you can, and by X year they'll have $3 million.
There's another one too.
And I was like, we should. And I was like, I'm gonna call her and get some help here because I was not taught
I wasn't either.
This, and I just want us all to be smarter about it. But yet, that's another podcast. That
sign me up for that one.
Yeah. But this has been so amazing. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I felt like I just went through a therapy session too. Like it just kind of like released a lot,
I mean, that's what like
just even
so great. Talking about balance helps because you realize your priorities, your values, and what's missing, and what you need to work on.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
All right.
Thank you for supporting another episode of Grasshopper's Balancedness podcast. If you liked it, please rate, review, and subscribe on our Apple and Spotify pages. Send me a screenshot at hello@grasshopper.com. That's GRASSHOPPHER to enter yourself into this episode's surprise raffle. And be the first to hear about upcoming episodes and events by signing up for Grasshopper's newsletter, which can be found on our website. Happy balancing until the next time.